Hi, my name is Refilwe Ledwaba and I act for women and girls. I've got I would say, quite an interesting story because unlike a whole lot of people that have a story that started when they're 4 years old, mine didn't start that way. I didn't know that I could become a pilot. Aviation was never a career choice for women and based solely because of where I was born. We never had women pilots. I've never seen an aircraft flying, and I think the closest I've seen an aircraft was Tom Cruise in one of the movies. So really, it was never a career choice for me. And I think that's changed when I went to university. I flew in an aircraft that the female, one of the pilots was female. And I remember she made the announcement from the flight deck, and I quite didn't understand what it meant because I thought only males could be pilots and females cabin crew. So I had to ask, who's this person? And only to find out, obviously, it was a pilot. So I think that sort of ignited my initial interest. But still, I didn't think I could become a pilot. I did speak to a few people, but it was really only when I after I finished my degree and I started working for an airline as a cabin crew that I think that bug sort of bit, and that's when I decided that is what I want to be. First, let me just talk about the general difficulties that I faced. I think number one I've addressed, the lack of information. The fact that I didn't know that it was a career option, I think that can be cited as a difficulty. The second one is finance. Aviation is very expensive, and to a normal household, especially in South Africa, with the history of South Africa, where there is, one of the highest inequalities, it's really not attainable. So that I would say is, in terms of aviation, that's one of the general challenges that pretty much everyone faces. But as a woman, obviously there's added challenges to that. There's not a lot of people that have been there before you that have paved the path, so you're literally paving that path. You're literally coming up with a shovel and you're just removing that gravel road, and that can really be hard. Aviation, it's still a male-dominated industry. When I started, it was even a more male-dominated industry. So there's certain rules that we call them unsaid rules. So those are the rules that are not in the book, but those are the rules that it happen in any other club. And as a female coming into that club, you're almost made to feel like an outsider. So you don't really belong into that club. So those are things that you need to break into. On a lighter moment, I remember I was very short, so I needed to carry cushions. And literally women are short. And I remember as well flying helicopters, I was very light, and the minimum weight for solo flying in a helicopter is about 60 kg. So I had to carry a sandbag around. And that's pretty much most women. They are little small and they're little short. And that as well goes back to the way aircraft were manufactured. They were manufactured with men in mind. So when you start getting women in there, those things didn't change. So we needed to adjust to whatever that was there. So those were some of the challenges. I think they not necessarily train as such, but highlight some of the things that might help them in the way. For example, I know that traditionally most women are maybe a little bit shorter with shorter arms, and sometimes they can impact the performance. For example, if you're short and you don't have you're not sitting correctly, you're not gonna be able to land properly. So what I find that especially women, they'll struggle with certain things, and only to find out that actually they can't see the runway properly or they're too short. So because of my experience, being short, my experience of knowing how, when an aircraft is light, how it behaves and stuff like that, I could take that experience to my students now, especially female students. Because the first thing when they come and fly, I put them in the aircraft. Sit there, what can you see, what can you not see, before you can even get airborne. And those things happen because I experienced that. So yes, I approached it a little bit differently. Not the actual training, but some of the things that can enhance their training. GFPA was created initially because of my own personal struggles. So I wanted to create a platform where girls don't have to struggle to get information, because I had a problem with information. I wanted to create a platform where girls had a choice. I felt that my choices came in later in life. I struggled because I couldn't break into that, previously a men's club. And, so I knew that something had to be done to make sure that people or girls that come after us don't have to struggle because of all those things. So initially it was because of my own personal challenges. But obviously the foundation evolved, with a lot of research, and we found out there's much more bigger problems than addressing the issue that you can't get an elevator cushion, or the fact that there aren't a lot of females. And the question that we needed to answer was why? Why is that the case? Why is it that it's not a viable career choice for women? Why is it that I didn't know about it? Why is it that I didn't even know that I had a choice, that I can actually do that? Why didn't I have confidence enough to actually know that I actually do that? So those are the things that we evolved from just looking at numbers and getting women into aviation, into solving the fundamental problem of going back and saying, but why is it that the case? What is it that we're trying to solve? So what we're doing now, we've gone back to the grassroots level. Telling somebody at the age of 5 that they have choices versus telling somebody at the age of 20 that they have choices is two different, it's two different games. Changing mindset, it's all good. When I wanted to become a pilot and I went home and I said I wanted to become a pilot, obviously everyone looks at you like, are you crazy? So those are things that, we're looking at. How do we change mindset? How do we give confidence to these young girls at a very, very young age and let them have those choices? So we've gone from saying we want to increase the number of pilots to saying we want women to have choices. When the numbers are down, it shouldn't be because they don't have choices. It should be because they chose not to be in that field. That's number one. Number two, we've looked at holistically where the aviation industry is. We don't necessarily need pilots only. There's a whole lot of other careers in the aviation industry. We need people that can innovate for the industry. We're looking at drone industry, what it can potentially do. And innovation, it's not something that you can teach somebody when they're 30 and say, innovate. It's something that has to be entrenched in the education system. It is something that it has to be taught from a very young age, the innovative mindset. So that's where we come in as well. And we're saying we want these kids, by the time they're 20, they need to be able to see problems as opportunity. They need to walk around, they're like, there's a pothole, what can I innovate? Not what can the government do or anybody else do. And we're hoping by doing that, changing mindset, from a very young age, it will translate to not even us looking at the numbers. That will automatically happen. The funny part, I didn't even know that those statistics were there and that is what is going to happen. I just went to training, and when I finished, they're like, you're the first black woman to get a commercial helicopter license. So it's something that I didn't know, and when it happened, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But obviously as well, it comes with responsibility. But there is, the upside is there's all these opportunities that open up. You've got access to all these people, which for me works very well, because having access, it means, GFPA can have access as well. So the question was, how do I then use that platform to make sure, again, that others that come after me have got an easier path? So that has given me a little bit of leverage where I can negotiate, I can lobby, and do a lot of things because of mainly that position. But there's the downside as well. The downside is when you're well known, you live under a microscope as well. You cannot afford to make mistakes, because if you make mistake, it impacts the entire generation. They're like, women, no, but you can see what she did, so we shouldn't be training more women. But I think as you become more experienced and as you grow older, you are able to navigate, because it is a limitation for yourself and for your career. You need to find a way to come out and balance it. And I think I'm at a stage where really I'm okay with making mistakes and coming out. Whether I need to apologize for the mistake or rectify it, I will do that, but that wasn't the case. The advice I would actually give it to women in general, not even in the sector, because it will translate to us working in the sector, is the fact that we need to stop feeling like visitors when we go into places and into, we need to own up to those spaces. And I think one of the biggest things that I've seen as a huge challenge is, this imposter syndrome of feeling like you're a visitor. When you've got a license or a qualification, it wasn't given to you because you're a woman. It was given to you because you've got a skill and you've got something to contribute. And when you get hired, that company wouldn't have hired you because you're not competent or anything like that. And I think because sometimes we doubt ourselves and our ability, that's where the issues come in. But if you go in there, and sometimes I do tell my students that yes, don't be arrogant. However, a pinch of it sometimes it's good for you. Knowing that when I come in, I'm gonna put it down nicely. Be arrogant about it. And acknowledge it. That was a nice landing. Because sometimes we're modest about our achievement and that pushes back as well. You do a nice landing and then we find an excuse, oh, the weather was good. No, you did a nice landing, not because the weather was good. When you do something good, you need to be able to say to yourself, you've done something good, and it wasn't because of any external factor, it was because of your ability. I think one of my main challenges is not even having to do with aviation. It was public speaking. And one of the biggest advice I had was the moment you walk into that stage, people want you to succeed, otherwise they wouldn't be there to listen to you. So there's no need for you to work out yourself and be scared because everyone wants you to succeed. So with women as well, sometimes there's this perception that society doesn't want them to succeed. And I think it's not true. Society actually wants us to succeed. So when you come in, go with an attitude that everyone wants me to succeed. Even if you see something negative, you just push it aside and say, everyone wants me to succeed. And I think that's what I will, that's the advice that I would give, the next generation, that confidence. Yeah. I think, again, shifting mindsets and perception. I think for girls and for women, nobody's going to do it for us. We need to do it ourselves. We need to change that mindset. We need to know that we're capable. We actually need to even enhance those groups of, women to be able to empower, each other. And empowerment shouldn't be a conference of somebody sitting here and giving you 5 points, how to get out of something, or 6 points, whatever. Empowerment, it has to be holistic. We need to be accessible. When I'm the first person to, do this and to fly, I shouldn't go then hide or now start hanging around with people at a certain level. I need to be accessible to everyone, and especially the next generation. So I think one of the things that need to change mindset, perception, women that have made it, they need to be accessible, not at conferences, but at grassroots level. They need to go there. Those kids need to see them. Girls become what they see. And there's a famous saying, she becomes, I don't know what it says, but something like that. People need to know that people that look like them, sound like them, that have got stories that's similar to them, can get to a certain level. And it can only happen if we go back, and do that. The second thing, obviously, one of the education system, the way it's designed, and I don't think it's a South African problem. It's a world problem where even in classes you still have that division of what male do and what females do in school. Books that will define males in a certain roles and female in a certain roles. So structurally, there's a lot of things, not only in South Africa, in the whole world, that that need to change. The media, but the media has been doing quite well lately. But you will see ads of washing powder. I've never seen a man advertising washing powder. There's always a female advertising washing powder. If it's an airline, it's always a male that's a pilot or a technician, female that is an air hostess. So the perception, right from grassroots, every aspect of the ecosystem need to change to be able to support what I've just said. But in the meantime as well, we cannot sit back and say we're waiting for the media to change or the education system to change. As a foundation, we can still come up with programs that can complement whatever that is in existence and challenge whatever that is written there, that yes, it's written there, but it's not limited to this particular gender or this particular race. Or you can see that on TV, but hello, there's another one here. And I think what you're doing as well, with your work with Act for Women, and making sure that our voices as female pilots are heard all over the world, that will make a huge impact. Yeah.